will be scrutinized, celebrated for as long as the game is played.
In pro football, nobody's entitled to anything. You have to go out there and earn it.
I was pretty intent on proving myself.
We were going to determine the future of football in New England.
The Patriots are Super Bowl champions!
First dynasty of the century.
This game is like a narcotic. You're chasing that forever.
Breaking news right now.
Spygate. Deflategate.
Aaron couldn't separate himself from that dark side.
That team won enough to become the villain.
We worked for Bill, but we played for Tom.
Bill tore Brady's head completely off.
There's things that are done that can't be undone.
I was just trying to hold it together the best I could.
This team will be scrutinized, celebrated for as long as the game of football is played.
Hello, everyone. My name is Heather Hurt, and I am with the NRW, where nerds rule the world. And I am here with executive producer and director of the Dynasty, New England Patriots documentary series coming exclusively to Apple TV Plus on February 16th. The director himself, Matt Hamachek. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. That was lots of words there. The series is based around basically the last 20 years of the Patriots' history. Can I ask why you selected? Actually, no, I'm going to go back. Are you a Patriots fan? I should have asked that to begin with.
I am not a Patriots fan. I actually grew up in Washington, D.C. listening to WTOP. So I was not a Patriots fan growing up, and knew really nothing about the story when I got started.
Awesome. So we are based out of DC, so we understand that very, very well. And of course, I was going to make a joke about being from Dallas, but then I won't do that to you. But so then, as someone who's not from the area, is not a huge fan, no judgment. Why did you pick the Patriots, and why this team of the Patriots?
Well, look, two reasons really. This is the greatest, dynasty, certainly in NFL history, possibly in sports history. And I think when I started to dig into it, what really drew me in was a deeply sort of human story, right? I love personally watching football, but I also knew that in order to make any story great, it can't be about just the subject matter, right? So I worked on a movie about Amanda Knox, and I knew that it couldn't be just about true crime, right? It had to be something bigger than that. And similarly with Tiger, my last thing that I directed, it couldn't just be about Tiger Woods, the golfer. It had to be about something more than that. And in this story, what I found was this great sort of story about a group of people who came together. And this is sort of in 2000, and they did the rare thing that a group of people can do, which is to all be extraordinarily selfless, right? And they pushed their egos and all sort of the messiness of being human and their the messiness of human relationships aside, and they went in one direction with a common goal, which was to win a Super Bowl. And then they very quickly won 3 of those in 4 years. And one of the things that was really important to me when I started telling the story was to not have it feel like each episode was an island. I wanted all of them to sort of arc over the course of 10 episodes. And so to me, those first 3, where we witnessed that first season, when they get to the first Super Bowl, it sort of felt like the beginning of a roller coaster ride where you're sort of slowly getting pulled up to the top, right? And then when they get to those first 3, they're at the very top of the roller coaster and they start to peer over the edge. And that's when you start to hear Scott Pioli, who is the director of player personnel, who's a really interesting guy who really hasn't talked a lot on the record about this story. He starts to talk about things like an addiction to winning, right? And how it can never stop, and how you're chasing that forever. And then we very quickly in the next episode go into the '07 season with the Patriots, right, where things become more complicated. There are these words that are thrown around like betrayal, and that's when the Spygate scandal happens. And the team's response to that is that they go on this incredible winning streak, right, where they defeat everybody in their path. And one of the editors on the story described it, at this point they'd become the evil empire, right? They weren't the lovable sort of bad news bears, the little engine that could. They described themselves as the evil empire. And there was an editor on the project who is actually a fan of the Patriots, and he said, this sort of feels like you're on the Death Star, and there's a party going on, and they're going from place to place to place, annihilating everybody in their path. And I love that description of it. And it's one of the things that makes this the making of this so unique is not only were we able to talk to these guys, but we were able to ask them questions like that. And when we were talking to Teddy Bruschi, who's one of the stars of the team, what was it like to be in that locker room? He said it kind of felt like we had turned into the bad guys. And then he sort of says, it felt kind of good, and then we got to see them celebrating the locker room, and then sort of facing the ultimate sort of humbling moment when they get to the Super Bowl that year. And just when you think they couldn't be humbled enough, the next season, Tom Brady goes down, right? And he's injured and has to face his football mortality for the first time. And I think that moment in episode 5 really sets up the tension that will exist throughout the rest of the series, right? Because Tom realizes that the show can very easily go on without him. And this is all from the words of the people who were actually there. But you have a coach in Bill Belichick who's a genius. And one of the things that Bill knew is that, this wasn't going to last forever. And he started to look for Tom's replacement. But while he was doing that, Tom was continuing to be one of the great and sort of cementing himself as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And I think that kind of a story, right, of sort of facing I'm not going to put this that eloquently, but like your replaceability, right? The fact that anybody can move on and find somebody else who can do what you do at any point in time, and your mortality and dealing with that. It's a very human story that has nothing to do with football in a lot of ways. And that's what made it so interesting to me as somebody who didn't really care about the Patriots, right? And I think what will make this a story for people who frankly could care less about football, I think they'll watch this and find it endlessly fascinating because, I sort of think of it like it's Shakespeare with footballs. That's what makes the story great to me, is that the football is the thing that drives the plot along, but it's really about the characters.
You answered about 5 of my questions in that one statement alone. I was even going to make, I am not a sports ball fan. That's why my producer put me on this interview. And I was about to say, what about all of us who don't watch football? How would you sell this to us? But that was very eloquent. And but let's talk about you kind of broke down that it isn't so much the people, but the team. But you also made it about the people. There was a wide crew of interviewees. Why did you want so many people?
Well, the thing is, this story has been told, in some ways before, right? Bill Belichick had a book written about him, which was a great book. Tom Brady had his own documentary series that was about this story through Tom's eyes. And so it felt like there were all these very specific lenses, right? So what I wanted to do was expand this to not just be about the superstars that were there, but like everybody, right? From all of their perspectives. And I think the other part of it was to find people who had really never talked about this at all before. And one of the things that bothers me in the sports world today is that everything has to be there needs to be hot takes, and everything needs to be binary. It's like when we were making this thing, everybody was saying, well, is it Bill or is it Tom? It has to be one or the other, right? And the answer is that's almost, the answer is, in a polite way, is it's not a very good question, right? Because in order to have success at this level, everybody had to be involved. And that's one of the things that everybody kept talking to us about was, this took so many people sacrificing so much over so many years, and it's not spending time with your families. It's the off-season work. It's the late nights watching film, and to say that it was just one person or another is sort of not asking the right kind of question. And I think what doing a series like this with the team that I was able to work with on my side of all these great editors, producers, researchers, but then also the people we had at Apple that we worked with and Imagine Entertainment, they really gave us the room to tell this incredibly complex, nuanced story. And I think that the film turned out so well because of our ability to tell the story that way.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. The Dynasty, New England Patriots. The first 2 episodes premiere on Apple TV Plus on February 16th. Thank you so much for your time, Matt.
All right. Thanks for having me.